Sometimes being the responsible one in the family means making tough decisions that others won't understand, at least not at first. I'm Emily, and this is the story of how I saved our family's legacy, even though my siblings initially saw me as the villain. Our father built Wilson Manufacturing from the ground up. Starting in our garage with just a few tools and a dream, he transformed it into what everyone in town knew as a successful mid-sized manufacturing company. Growing up, we all worked there during summers, me, my brother Michael, and our younger sister Sarah. But while they saw it as a summer job, I saw it as my future. I was the only one who stayed with the company after college, working my way up from the factory floor to management, learning every aspect of the business. Meanwhile, Michael pursued a career in finance in New York, and Sarah became a travel blogger, living what she called her best Instagram life. They'd show up for holiday dinners and occasional family events, always bragging about their exciting lives while dismissively referring to me as the one who never left home. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to learn, was that I was quietly becoming Dad's right hand in the business. While they saw a struggling local manufacturer trying to keep up with changing times, I saw the potential for something much bigger. "Emily," Dad would say during our late-night strategy sessions, "you're the only one who really understands this company. The others, they see what it was, not what it could be." He was right. Michael and Sarah saw Wilson Manufacturing as nothing more than a reliable source of dividend checks every quarter. They never asked about the business itself, never showed interest in its operations or future. Their only questions were about when the next payment would arrive. When Dad was diagnosed with aggressive cancer last year, everything changed. The doctors gave him 6 months, but he was determined to make sure the company's future was secure before he went. In his final weeks, he made a decision that would later spark a family war. He made me CEO and majority shareholder. "The others won't understand," he told me from his hospital bed, his voice weak, but his mind still sharp. "But you know what needs to be done. Promise me you'll do whatever it takes to secure the company's future." I promised, knowing full well that whatever it takes might mean making decisions my siblings wouldn't like. What I didn't expect was just how quickly I'd have to fulfill that promise. After Dad passed, I discovered the company's situation was more precarious than even he had known. Our main product line was becoming obsolete, our equipment needed major upgrades, and our competitors were moving production overseas. Without significant changes, Wilson Manufacturing would be bankrupt within 2 years. I spent months analyzing options, working with consultants, and developing a strategy. The solution became clear, but I knew it would be controversial. We needed to sell the company. Not to just anyone, but to our largest competitor, Global Tech Industries. The timing was perfect. Global Tech wanted to acquire a domestic manufacturing facility to fulfill government contracts that required US-based production. They were willing to pay a premium, but the deal had to be done quickly and quietly. I didn't consult Michael or Sarah. I knew they'd leak the information, trying to play amateur negotiator or worse, attempt to block the sale entirely. Instead, I worked with our lawyers and board members to structure the deal properly. The sale went through on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, my phone was exploding with messages from my siblings. Someone at Global Tech had leaked the news, and now I had a family crisis on my hands. Emergency family meeting. Now, Michael's text came through in all caps, followed by a string of angry emojis from Sarah. I agreed to meet them at our family home, where we'd grown up and where Mom still lived. As I pulled into the driveway, I could see them both pacing on the front porch, faces red with anger. "How could you?" Sarah screamed as soon as I stepped out of my car. "How could you sell Dad's legacy without even talking to us?" Michael, always the one who thought his finance degree made him a business genius, jumped in. "Do you have any idea what you've done? That company was worth at least $10 million. Dad would be rolling in his grave." I walked past them into the house, setting up my laptop on the dining room table where we'd shared so many family meals. Mom sat quietly in her usual chair, watching the drama unfold. "Are you even going to explain yourself?" Michael demanded, following me inside. "Or are you too ashamed of what you've done?" I took a deep breath, opened my laptop, and pulled up the sale documents. "You might want to sit down for this." "I don't want to sit down." Michael was practically shaking with rage. "You sold our company. Dad's company. Without even. The sale price was $157 million. I cut him off calmly. The room went completely silent. Sarah, who had been about to launch into another tirade, froze with her mouth open. Michael collapsed into the nearest chair. That's impossible, he finally managed to say. The company wasn't worth anywhere near that much. I turned my laptop around so they could see the documents. Global Tech didn't just buy our manufacturing capability. They bought our patents, our client relationships, and most importantly, the new product line I've been developing in secret for the past year. Their eyes grew wider as they scrolled through the documents, taking in the details of the deal. Not only had I sold the company for far more than they thought possible, but I had negotiated to keep all current employees on staff with improved benefits, secured a 5-year commitment to keep production local, and established a charitable foundation in Dad's name to support local education initiatives. But how? Sarah stammered. The company was just a small manufacturer. How did you? Because while you were traveling the world and Michael was playing stockbroker in New York, I was here, modernizing our production processes, developing new products, and positioning the company for exactly this kind of opportunity, I explained. Dad knew what I was doing. He helped me plan it. Mom spoke up for the first time, her voice gentle but firm. Your father always said Emily was the only one who truly understood the business. Now you know why. Michael, still struggling to process the information, pointed at a particular figure on the screen. This says we each get a share of the sale proceeds. Even though we weren't involved. Dad wanted the company to provide for all of us, I explained. So yes, you'll each receive your share. But there are conditions. That got their attention. Both of them leaned forward, suddenly very interested in what their previously boring sister had to say. The money will be placed in a managed trust, I continued. You'll receive quarterly distributions, just like before, but sized appropriately to the larger amount. No lump sums, no borrowing against it, no using it as collateral for your latest get-rich-quick scheme, Michael. Hey, he protested, but weakly. We all knew about his failed attempts to start various businesses using loans secured by his expected inheritance. Additionally, I went on, a portion of each share will be dedicated to the charitable foundation. Dad always wanted to give back to the community that supported us. Now we can do that in a meaningful way. Sarah, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally found her voice. So, we're actually rich now? Like really rich? The company we grew up with was worth $10 million, I explained. But the company I built it into, the one I just sold, that was worth a lot more. And yes, managed properly, this money will take care of our family for generations. Why didn't you tell us what you were doing? Michael asked, his anger now replaced with something that sounded almost like respect. Would you have understood? Would you have kept quiet about it? I asked. This deal required complete confidentiality. One leak, one premature social media post, I looked pointedly at Sarah, and it would have fallen apart. They had the grace to look embarrassed, knowing I was right. Sarah's Instagram was full of insider tips that were really just family secrets she'd leaked for likes. And Michael had a habit of bragging about confidential information at his Wall Street happy hours. So what happens now? Sarah asked. Now we honor Dad's legacy the right way, I said. The charitable foundation will need a board of directors. I thought we could all serve on it together, learn to work as a family to do something meaningful for the community. But what about the actual company? Michael pressed. Won't it just disappear into global tech? I smiled, pulling up another document on my laptop. Actually, I negotiated a position for myself as head of their new domestic manufacturing division. Someone needs to make sure they keep their promises about maintaining local jobs and production. And, I added, looking at both of them, there might be opportunities for both of you if you're willing to actually learn the business this time. The next few hours were spent going through the details of the deal, the trust arrangements, and the foundation plans. As the initial shock wore off, both Michael and Sarah began to see the wisdom of what I'd done. I can't believe you pulled this off without any of us knowing, Michael said, shaking his head in admiration. I mean, I work in finance, and I never saw this coming. That's because you always saw Wilson Manufacturing as just a small family business, I replied. You never saw its potential. Sarah, scrolling through the foundation documents on her phone, looked up. You know what? This could make for an amazing social media campaign. Not just showing off, but actually documenting how a family business can transform a community. That's actually not a bad idea, I admitted. The foundation will need public support to maximize its impact. Mom, who had been quietly observing all of this, finally stood up and hugged me. "Your father would be so proud," she whispered. "Not just of the sale, but of how you're bringing the family together through it." The weeks that followed were busy ones. Michael took a leave of absence from his Wall Street job to help set up the trust arrangements, finally putting his finance skills to work for the family in a meaningful way. Sarah, true to her word, started documenting the foundation's formation and its initial community projects, creating genuine engagement instead of just chasing likes. The local reaction to the sale was better than I'd hoped. When people learned that all jobs were secure and that we'd established a major charitable foundation, the initial concerns about selling to a larger company faded. Global Tech kept their promises, investing in modernizing the facility and even expanding local operations. 1 year after the sale, we held a community event to celebrate the foundation's first anniversary. As I watched Michael and Sarah confidently explaining our initiatives to local leaders, I couldn't help but smile. They'd grown so much in just a year, finally understanding that success isn't just about the money. It's about the impact you have on others. Remember how angry they were when they first heard about the sale? Mom said, coming to stand beside me. And now look at them. They just needed time to understand, I replied. Dad always said that sometimes you have to trust that people will eventually see the bigger picture. He also said you were the only one who could take the company to the next level, she reminded me. Looks like he was right about both things. The foundation has now become our family's new legacy. Michael's financial expertise helps us maximize our impact through smart investment strategies. Sarah's social media skills bring attention to important community initiatives. And I continue to oversee both the foundation and the manufacturing operations, ensuring that both thrive. Last week, we had another family dinner at Mom's house. But this time, instead of bragging about their separate lives, my siblings were excitedly discussing plans for the foundation's next projects. As I listened to them debate the merits of different initiatives, I thought about how far we'd come from that dramatic confrontation a year ago. You know, Michael said during a lull in the conversation, I owe you an apology, Emily. When you sold the company, I thought you were destroying Dad's legacy. But you weren't destroying it. You were transforming it into something even better. Sarah nodded in agreement. We were so focused on preserving what Dad built that we couldn't see the potential for something bigger. You saw it though, didn't you? You always could see further than the rest of us. Dad saw it too, I reminded them. He knew the company needed to evolve. He just trusted me to figure out how. The truth that had left them speechless a year ago had become a source of family pride and unity. The company sale wasn't just a business transaction. It was a catalyst for positive change, both in our family and our community. As I drive past the old Wilson manufacturing facility now, with its modernized exterior and expanded operations, I feel a deep sense of satisfaction. The company Dad started in our garage has evolved into something he could never have imagined, but its core values, providing good jobs, supporting the community, and keeping manufacturing local, remain intact. The trust funds provide well for our family, but it's the foundation that truly enriches our lives. We've funded scholarships, supported local businesses, and helped modernize community facilities. Dad's legacy lives on, not just in the manufacturing operations, but in the positive impact we continue to have on the community he loved. Michael still lives in New York, but he comes home more often now, genuinely engaged in the foundation's work. Sarah still travels, but now she combines her adventures with visiting similar foundations worldwide, bringing back ideas for new initiatives. And me? I'm exactly where I want to be, ensuring that both the manufacturing operation and our family's charitable works continue to thrive. Mom summed it up best during our last family gathering. Your father built a company, she said, but Emily, you built a legacy. And now, all of you are building a future together. The laptop that once displayed shocking news to my siblings now holds reports of the foundation's accomplishments and the ongoing success of the manufacturing operations. The truth that left them speechless that day has become the foundation of a stronger, more united family, working together to honor Dad's memory in ways that go far beyond what any of us initially imagined. Looking back, I realized that selling the company wasn't just about getting the best price or securing our financial future. It was about understanding that sometimes preserving a legacy means being willing to transform it. Dad knew that, and now, finally, so does our entire family. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.